Hello, my EMS friends. This is Corey Maru here, and I'm here with Egregiousguy, if I'm pronouncing it right.
Egregious guy.
Nice. So, tell us about yourself. How were you first introduced to the House of the Dead series, and how long were you a fan?
Oh, geez, this goes way back. I'd say the first time I played House of the Dead had to have been like, I would say sophomore year of high school. That would have been like 1999, 98, around that time.
Around when House of the
Yeah,
Dead
there was a
2
local
came out?
mall over in Lakewood, and they had House of the Dead. I remember just getting annihilated way
Oh,
back then, so it's weird to look back and see how far I've come then. But I didn't really get into it till I got in college, because they brought in House of the Dead to the arcade room, and I spent almost every day playing that for a year plus in between classes. And let me see, I think there was I think on the home console, I think I had the House of the Dead 2 for Dreamcast. I had one of those guns that I don't even know what it's called. It's the one that had the VMU port in the back. And I mean, that was fun to play at home, but it just wasn't the same as playing it out in the arcade. And let's see, that's probably as far back as I remember.
okay. Could you tell us what's your favorite House of the Dead game?
Favorite House of the Dead game? It's gonna have to be the first one. Probably just for nostalgic reasons. I've played it for, I don't know, years straight. So, I mean, I guess it's not only that. It's just, the animations. I like the animations a lot in there, and it's not too realistic, but it just, I mean, when you shoot limbs off and you just see stuff flying around, it's pretty cool. I mean, especially back in the day when they first came out.
Yeah.
Kind of like, wow, this was just like, yeah, there's nothing like this. It just stood out compared to anything else. So,
Yeah. Yeah, the original had that aesthetic to it, and I remember when I was younger. I think I was maybe I was born in '91, and the game came out in '97 here.
right,
I think I was like maybe, I want to say at least like 5 or 6 years old when the game came out, and
hmm
I remember it used to be at the Eisenhower movie theater here in Savannah, and they had the deluxe arcade edition where it's like a
yeah,
big screen, and
right,
the first time I saw like Cyril, the axe zombie with the axes and stuff coming into his
right,
face,
right,
and he slashes the
right.
screen. That scared the living hell out of me. It kind of reminded me, like, back then I used to be afraid of zombies ever since. I always thought like the creatures in House of the Dead were more frightening than Resident Evil, because they're a little bit
Right,
lot more, detailed and up in your face, pretty much.
right, yeah, right, yeah. Because I remember playing the Resident Evil games, and I mean, you're playing as like third person, and you're shooting through them, but like this is like a, you know, first person experience. These guys are coming at you, and you have a handgun. What are you gonna do with it?
Yeah, pretty much. Um, see, what made you dig deeper into the data assets of the original House of the Dead game? Like, what made you wanted to explore the scenery of the levels, the 3D models, and the
Mm,
textures?
um, a lot of it has to do with self-interest. I mean, a lot of us, we're like, oh, what's inside the mansion, or what else is in, that courtyard that we don't get to experience in game, because it's kind of it is an on-rail shooter.
Hmm.
So, I I went on YouTube, or went on Google just to see if anyone has ever done it yet, and then I remember seeing a YouTube video of someone extracting the maps from House of the Dead 2. Forgetting his username. I think it was like Robert Gallons or something like that. But yeah, he ripped the map of House of the Dead 2, and I was like, whoa, maybe I can do that for the first version, because for some reason I can't find it anywhere on the web. So I think that what kind of got me interested into it, and then just like once I figured something out, like, oh, you know, I figured how to not put a head on a zombie. Okay, what else can I do now? And you know, it just kind of just led from one thing to another. And I mean, looking back, it's like, wow, I didn't realize how far I've come in just a short amount of time. Just digging deep and deep into this game.
Nice. From, like, you know, the exterior of the Kyrian mansion, how was that experience for you? Just looking through like the level layouts for the game.
It's kind of like, finally. I think that's. I mean, when I the first time when I opened up Blender and I imported everything in there, and I looked at it and like, wow, this is it. This is what I've worked so. I mean, everyone is just like wanting to see, and I'm like, I have this. This is on my computer. This is in front of me. I have my mouse, and I can actually go through everything. That just was like, wow, what else? What's missing? Like, what in the game have they hidden from us, or what secret rooms that were probably in an original design that didn't make it to the final and stuff like that. It's kind of like, I mean, it was like, yeah. I mean, even now I'm like at a loss for words, because that's exactly how I felt when it all worked out.
Okay. Speaking of Blender, were there any other programs you used to search for like hidden unused content in the game?
Yes, a lot of different tools I used. A lot of them were free, so it's not like anyone couldn't do it. Because I mean, when I started doing all this stuff, I had no idea what I was doing. So, you know, I just looked around for, you know, the next thing. I mean, something that I can use that's free. So it was like, I mean, I didn't even do a trial version on any of these. Oh yeah, I guess I did. I think the first thing that I used was I didn't use Cheat Engine. I used Art Money. It just was, I think, simpler for me to use it, because I tried Cheat Engine and it didn't really work out for me that well.
Mm-hmm.
As easy as Art Money did, because I think Art Money had some of the emulator addresses saved in there. I forgot what the term was they used in there, but it already had some settings where I could just open up House of the Dead, and then it already had some settings saved in there for me by default. And then because of that, I was able to just read addresses just strictly for the game and not all this other memory that was going through computer. So Art Money was a big one. Another big one was HXD. I think a lot of people who've seen my videos, they see me use that. It's basically a free hex editor that you can just read any file, and a lot of the files, if you try to open up like Notepad or Microsoft Word, it just looks like gibberish because it's all like binary data converted. But if you open up in a hex editor, you'll actually see more things that look like words or numbers. GIMP, that's, you know, easy go-to if you don't have Photoshop. That really helped me out with the textures, just finding out what part of the data were textures and which ones weren't, because it would show when you would just import raw data, you could kind of move it around and see if anything looks like a picture. And for all the scripting, I mean, Windows 10 has a code writer built into it, so that one, by default, I guess I use that. And I use Excel. I think in one of the videos, I mean, using Excel. I just use that to just move stuff around or highlight things and sort things out. That one really helped out because sometimes I needed to interleave data, like parts of it, some information was in one ROM and one was in another, and I had to combine the two. And I didn't have a program to do it, or like the scripts that I did it took too long, so doing it in Excel was so much quicker and faster. And I think, yeah, that pretty much sums up all the software that I use. I mean, I use OBS Studio to record, if that counts.
Nice. That's pretty interesting. And after looking at a couple of your past videos, you were able to make some major gameplay changes to the original House of the Dead game. How were you able to accomplish that feat? I've seen you did like a headless mode, time crisis, punch out, texture swapping.
Okay, so like in Model 2, in the infamous El Semi, he's like the god of Model 2 emulation that everyone's been trying to hunt down or something. But he left, in his latest releases, he left Lua scripting, which is basically just like a, you can program things to happen in the game that you normally can't. And it's through Lua scripting that, I mean, you can pretty much make anything happen. You can draw onto the screen if you want, or you can manipulate memory addresses to change that around and see what happens. But like headless mode, that was kind of easy. It's just like it was a texture hack. Basically, all of the what do you call it? The textures for the zombies' heads, I kind of made it transparent. And then I did a bit of, so that one was, it took a little bit of time just trying to figure that out, but made it transparent, and then just a bit of fluid scripting to make, what is that first zombie? I think it's Nail.
Yeah.
Made him walk a different path, so he's not running into Rogue Energy in the beginning. But
yeah,
then,
the free camera movement.
Yeah, the camera mode. Oh, geez, that was like a mistake that just happened out of nowhere when I was going through addresses and just messing things around, and all of a sudden the camera started moving. Like, wait, what just happened? And then, I'm like, did I just move the camera? I'm like, I think it did. And then went through some more addresses. Like, yeah, this one goes left, this one goes right, this one goes up and down. So yeah, that one was pretty cool. Yeah, that one was just like by luck. Time Crisis and Punch Out, that one took a lot of extra scripting, I guess. A lot of memory reading, hours of memory reading. I remember spending nights, and like I get home from work, and then my wife's like, "What are you doing so late?" I'm like, "Leave me alone. I'm in the middle of something. I can't lose pace." And yeah, just seeing how things change as the game progresses, and just seeing what values change helped me get like numbers for timers, like the continue screen, like the countdown kind of 0. That was a separate memory. Just adding on my own textures over the screen, that was pretty simple.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see, that Punch Out one. Oh yeah, I actually implemented some keyboard keys on that, so if you hit like, I don't remember what it was, left or right, and then you could dodge left or dodge right. Yeah, that one was pretty cool.
Nice, awesome. That's like, oh my god, like I didn't think you can actually do that if, like, you know, the game has been like pretty much like finalized and stuff.
Right.
And speaking of that, the prototype version, you know, we've all known that the prototype version of the original House of Dead game was dumped for MAME, the arcade emulator.
Right.
And
yeah, it was like about a month ago.
Yeah, and you were able to figure out how to play it on the Model 2 emulator. From playing the prototype version, what are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, I was actually surprised with the prototype version because, I mean, for the first 2 stages, which I think that was all that was included, It was actually very similar to the final version, and I didn't think there was a little change. I mean, there was some texture changes and some movement changes, but I mean, overall gameplay, it kind of felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the paths were missing, and some of the creatures were missing, I believe, or they were different. And I'm actually surprised how, I mean, they kind of, I think in the final version they just kind of touched it up, made it a little more, I don't know, I don't want to say user-friendly, it just made more sense the way they did it in the final version. I mean, they didn't really change much of the first two stages, which I did like, but when they added in, I guess in the final version, stages 3 and 4, it just felt complete. And then in the prototype version, there was a lot of things that that were in that in that ROM file that didn't make it to the final. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, Cindy, a lot of her name appears in the ROM files for this game, and I think it was earlier this week that I saw some text that I think she was gonna be like the first stage boss, and I was like, no, that can't be. I'm like, well, I looked at the textures, and her textures are right next to, what did they call him, Bacchus? Or
Yeah, Bacchus.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Chariot's beta name.
Yeah. They were like right next to each other, and you know, in my head, I'm like, that could have been a possibility, that she was a boss, instead of, you know, his what is his weapon called? I keep forgetting his weapon.
It's like a Barachu, or like it's
yeah, I forget the technical term for it, but I think she's supposed to have like an oversized hammer, from what I was reading, something like Gilmore's hammer, but I think she was supposed to have one. Yeah, and then, I mean, when I was thinking about that, I'm like, wow, Cindy has a boss in that room. Like, well, what if that was actually Sophie as Cindy, and then she got turned when she got pulled by Devil at the beginning? I don't know. I was
oh my god, it's like Splatterhouse, where Rick finds Jennifer, and she ends up turning into like this ugly monster. Like it kind of that would have been cool, actually.
Yeah, because like you get to the room, and then like Sophie's not there, but you see this girl with like this thing, and like, wait, what's going on? And you find out after you defeat her that it was actually Sophie. I don't know. That would have been a pretty strange twist.
Yeah, that would be a twist, and it would be pretty scary too.
Oh yeah, definitely not the path they probably would have wanted to go with. But yeah, I mean, the prototype version had a lot of things. I mean, Devil, we found that out later.
Yeah.
That he was actually Hangman. I mean, when I was going through the game data files again, I mean, his name inside all that stuff is still Devil, even in the final version, even in the PC version, his name is still that inside all that text. But I guess they didn't need to change it. They just changed, you know, whatever, when you reach him, they just called him Hangman later.
Nice. How about the blowback gun? I think one of the original designers mentioned that they wanted to like make a gun design where like it kind of reloads after you shoot like a creature or anything. It was from a Japanese article from one of the Sega Saturn magazines when they were like first developing. One of the AM1 staff were like first developing the first House of the Dead game. And I think it's on the service test menu as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's an option for that. That would have been a pretty interesting thing to have in the game. I mean, it would kind of change. I mean, the gameplay. I don't know about gameplay, but just, I mean, holding down with blowback. I mean, that would have been pretty cool to test out. I mean, I could see how it can get annoying after a while, but it would have been a nice, fun thing to use to show that you can do it. and I'm not sure why they pulled it out from the final version. Maybe they found it.
How about unused voices for certain characters in the game?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, in the prototype, I mean, at the end of the sound test, they had a lot of voices that didn't make it to the game. Especially that. I mean, they changed that one right after at the end of stage 1, where they had that dialogue, like an announcer dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that. I mean, that makes sense why they pulled that out. But there's a lot of other voices, like the researcher voices that didn't get used in the test mode that you can hear. What other voices? I mean, they even changed out some of the reload voices, and like when Rogue Energy gets hit, their voices are different too.
Yeah.
But I guess they, I mean, even in Scarlet Dawn, didn't they end up changing voices like last minute too? When
when they were doing location tests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they changed out what's her name, Kate's voice. I mean, maybe that's why they changed voices in here too. Maybe they got different voice actors later on. And
yeah.
Like we like your voice better.
Just just to like have the previous voices as placeholders until they like finalize everything.
Right.
And last question that we have here, with Sega losing the original source code, you think Sega can find ways to port the original game to modern consoles through maybe reverse engineering or like something that you're doing?
Oh, I think it's possible. I mean, you'd have to have like a dedicated team, I think. I mean, like a group of people who really want to do it and they spend all their time just doing it. Because, I mean, like what I've been doing, I mean, I've got pretty far going with like ripping out textures and models, but I mean, there's a lot more involved in the game, like the coding, coding-wise and getting everything up and running. I don't think that it's not possible. I mean, even if they can't port it, I mean, they can try to emulate it, I guess, kind of like Model 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some consoles they'll emulate, like they'll create their own emulator for whatever old thing that they had. It was just easier to emulate an older game than to have port it per se. But I mean, they can at least do that. I would think at least. I don't know which one would be harder though.
Yeah. I think it's a possibility they can do it. They have a couple of teams that they like have right now. Like there's some developers that they can probably hire, like D3T. They're the guys who are like behind the ports for the Sega Genesis classics and Shenmue 1 and 2. And
Shenmue 1 and 2.
Yeah, they're able to like revitalize some of the assets from that game. They had to remove some features though, like not features, but like certain like mentions, so that way they don't have to like worry about copyright later on.
Right.
And then you also have M2. They've had like a strong relationship with Sega since the I believe the Sega Saturn days, where they're like porting like their classic arcade titles to Sega Saturn. They also did a couple for the Sega Dreamcast, like working on like Sakura Wars 2, and then up to now they're doing Sega Ages for the Switch. And I know recently, when at the Tokyo Game Show, they've announced virtual racing, and not only they tried to like, they didn't like use like any of the other ports like the Genesis, 32X, Sega Saturn, whatever. They actually went back and tried to make they tried to go back to porting the original arcade version, pretty much.
Yeah,
so
I think that would have been the best. interesting to do.
Yeah, and like they can probably do the same features like how you did yours as well. Like maybe they can probably do like maybe like a ranking mode, a time attack, maybe beat the game with a certain character, that type of stuff. I think, yeah, I think with like those time dedicated teams and stuff, they can like accomplish anything.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, after all this time, you see like House of the 2 coming back out, House of the 3. I mean, we had that for the Wii, and then I mean, you know, everyone's like, well, what happened to 1? What happened to 1? Why haven't they produced 1? I mean, it's been how many years now? And is it you know, why no one wanted to do it, or there was just no incentive to try to bring it back? I don't know.
Well, you might see it eventually with Scarlet Dawn on the horizon.
Right.
Well, there you have it, guys. This is Korimaru signing off, and we wish you friends the best. AMS for life.